Joining us all the way in Uganda. Yes, Mr. Wayne Hayde, aka the Watchman. Pleasant, well, I should say morning to you and good evening here.
Yes, pleasant evening to you, Mikee K.
Yes, indeed. It's always a pleasure to have you on. I want to get right into it because time is limited. If you look at the extension given to the Commissioner of Police earlier here with Christopher, which extended for 1 year, many are asking what was the criteria as far as making that assessment to extend it. And you have been weighing on the crime issue here in Trinidad and Tobago and other issues as well, but very outspoken. We get your voice notes. It's shared all over, and some very tough pointers are made in there. I mean, looking at it now, one has to ask, if you had to make the assessment, would you have given the extension?
Yes, I would have. In the circumstances, there was no other choice, really. You have to remember that there are two factors working here. One, the Police Service Commission is the body who is authorized, as you know, to appoint, well, to select and recommend a commissioner of police. And it means that since they did not start the process for appointing a new commissioner until recently, I think May the 9th was the closing date, then there was nothing the government could do. Because, you see, they have to continue the appointment, the extension, under, I think it's Section 75 of the Police Service Regulations, just as they did in the past with Kenny Mohammed, with James Philpott, and to a lesser extent with McDonald Jacob. They had to do that and extend her because she cannot apply for the post of commissioner under the new process. And why she can't apply is because of what they did to me several years ago when I was the age she is at now, and they said that they got legal advice from some senior counsel to take my name off the merit list because I was over 60 years of age, even though it was appointment by contract, which was nonsense in my opinion, but it was a way for them to get rid of me, which they did. So now they can't appoint her, and they can't appoint any other person who is over the age of 60. The only way those persons could remain in office is if they are already in office and you extend them under the regulations. And that's what they had to do because, of course, Police Service Commission delayed in beginning the process to appoint.
So Mr. Hayde, what you're saying basically is the process here that basically would have given us would have given the extension based on what you're telling us. It's not about performance. So we as citizens, we are thinking, listen, if you're in a job and an assessment is made and you are unable, based on the criteria, you are unable to fulfill any of those things that you were hired to do or you fell short, it's a simple, listen, we want to thank you for the time that you've been here with us, but we must move on. Given the fact that the detection rate for violent crime was also well below the target of 25%, with only 17% achieved. On the issue of illegal gun seizures, not only did the TTPS fail to meet the prescribed 15% increase, but a 28% drop in the number of guns was reported. So many of these things, so far, she failed to achieve 5 out of the 8 target objectives, especially the violent crime reduction plan. Now, one is saying, okay, the process is definitely flawed, but what we as citizens expect is performance. And one would think that now we would hear something based on there's a task force set up for home invasions, because that seems to be something that the criminal elements are making a priority. They're going out, they're looking for soft targets. They don't want to be challenged with somebody with a FUL. So they're jumping walls, they're kicking in doors, they're jumping through windows. And why is it that we are not looking at some sort of strategy when the TTPS has these press conferences? Now, one of the things people would say that it might be based on profiling. But listen, if you have 3 individuals in the neighborhood who are hanging out, they're unemployed, and they're up and down in a vehicle every day, you know that they are up to no good. Forget about the fact of profiling. Why are we not outlining the fact that these things are happening and we need to arrest it?
So you're dealing with 2 different things there.
Yeah.
One, on the question of performance, I think that some of the benchmarks that the commissioner laid down for herself was, I would say over enthusiastic, and I thought it from the very beginning that it was able to be achieved. But the entity that is authorized to judge performance has given her a passing grade. So it does not matter what you or I or anybody else thinks. It is the entity, the Police Service Commission, who has decided that based on all the factors that they have used in their consideration, she has gotten a passing grade. But very more importantly, if they had not extended her, they would have had to have gone through a process for appointing a new commissioner as an acting commissioner in the same way again. And then I'm not so sure that there's anybody within the service right now who is such a shining light that you could have said, let's hand over to that person. You remember they just only recently appointed 3 persons as deputy commissioners. So if you have to remove one of them or bring someone else, now you have another process, another upheaval in the police service again. So therefore, it might be better to stick, with a bad analogy, but to stick with the devil that you know than to go to one that you don't.
Yeah, but with all due respect, Wayne, I don't mean to cut you. With all due respect, with the murder toll at 229 already, more murders than days of the year, this is not going to the casino and rolling dice. We're talking about people's lives here. So are you telling me that the reason why these things are happening is because bureaucracy has somehow created so much red tape that we are stuck in this situation?
No, what I'm saying to you is that we are failing to deal with the major aspect that is causing the problem, guns. And I have said it over and over and over again. And I even predicted, if you recall, that home invasions will increase because the criminals will try to go from hardening targets or hard targets to softer targets.
Yeah, you said that.
And it is obvious that this is what they were going to do. Any fool could see that. And any fool could also see that the problem we're having in the country right now is illegal guns in the hands of young men and women. And I have recommended again and again that we should take some action to have mandatory sentencing, to have no bail for gun-related crimes. It is necessary that the government and the opposition get together, sit in Parliament, and pass laws that may be necessary to change certain constitutional requirements on the fifth majority rule in order to help the society and save the society. But they're not doing that because one party is just looking at the other party to replace them when election time comes. They don't care if you all die on the streets or in your homes. Because if they cared, they would have said, let's have a truce temporarily. Let's work together and pass rigid laws. That's the only thing we can do. We cannot protect our borders because we are a small country with porous borders, and it is impossible for us to harden the entire country to such an extent. So what you have to do is to make sure that if people get caught, they will go to jail immediately and stay there. Not where people get fined and convicted for smaller fines than you will get for some traffic offenses or other non-violent crimes. That is what is happening. I also said a long time ago that Tobago should be made a safe zone. You remember?
Yes.
And we should know that the problems in Trinidad are going to migrate to Tobago. You now have the THA talking about setting up a police unit in Tobago. But they have to decide what they are going to do. And there are easy ways of doing it. There are countries that have stringent and rigid gun laws, and it works. But they're only being adherent to the USA principles of do as I say, but not as I do, because they are the ones manufacturing guns, they are the ones selling guns, and they are the ones that have policies in their country under the right to bear arms that makes it impossible for small countries to protect themselves. This is what is happening.
Wow. Where do we go from here, Mr. Wade? You have 10 seconds. Tell
Where
me.
do we go?
Yeah.
Where do we go? The politicians have to stop standing up on platforms when all of them, when they're in office, encourage and in some cases engage in corruption and corrupt activities, and people in the society see that no action is taken. All the people who are alleged to be corrupt and deemed to be corrupt are walking and talking on party platforms, hobnobbing and drinking tea and coffee with the leaders of the country, and going on social media and verbally abusing people in one way or another, and nobody says anything. Once you have that, then you know that they're all drinking from the same pot of dirty water. But they're not stopping and saying, let us do something, government and opposition. Let us really address the problem of guns in the society by putting these people away and telling the police, this is your job, this is what you have to do, and let them carry it out. I am not saying that the police service are always equipped to do it or willing to do it. I think they are also afraid of the gunmen and women. I think that the judiciary, members of the judiciary are so afraid, intimidated, or maybe even part of the problem that they are not taking any action. You can't tell me that a man gets caught with guns and ammunition and you find him $6,000 or $10,000. No, that should be 6 years or 10 years, and it should be mandatory. What are we doing? Are we not seeing what the problem is? So, and giving everybody legal guns will not help because they will be targeted. Look at the unfortunate situation of the police officer who died, and he was trained and legally armed. But the criminals are also training. They are also arming themselves. And we are not laying siege to them. And yes, cars, they're using vehicles, as you said, to go from place to place. No vehicle should travel on this road without the risk of being intercepted by the police. Yeah. No, none of them. The policy we have of people making number plates and changing number plates whenever they wish. Anyone caught in possession of a false number plate for motor vehicles should also serve mandatory sentences. Don't we understand that the time has passed for all of these international conventions that we think that could protect our society from abuse by the officials are being abused by the criminals?
Agreed.
When I said that they're using what the offensive space theory in which they're using our own rules and laws that we make to protect the society to protect themselves and abuse us. That is what is happening.
Mr. Hayde, I agree with you 100%. There are things that as far as the culture has to shift. Our time is up. I want to thank you so much for taking time out to link with us. I know it's not easy, especially where you're at and the time that you're at, but we will continue this. It's always a pleasure to have you on. And I hope the powers that be start to understand the seriousness of what's going on. And you did predict a lot of things, and we're seeing it coming out.
But some people have asked me, well, why don't you come home and do something? I applied for commissioner. I was not even given an opportunity. Not even for deputy commissioner, because they never asked me what I want. I was interested in becoming deputy commissioner, and they lied to Parliament and said that they asked all the candidates. They never asked me, and they never asked Gary Griffith. But in addition to that, it is important to know that I can't come and stand up on the steps and beg. You understand?
There has to be some reason in there. But listen, we got to stick a pin in that. Our time is up. I want to thank you again, and we will be talking again in the near future. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.